Hello. Well, it is time for another episode of Conversations from the C Suite. I am Dr. Stephanie D. Barnes, and you know the drill. We are about to begin our broadcast soon. But, this is a conversation, and we don't want to be in a conversation with ourselves. So we want to invoke the power of three. Please make sure that you share this out with at least three people, share it out in three groups because we're going to have a great conversation and we want to have somebody on here with us. So I'm going to take a few minutes to share it out myself, and then we are going to get started with this episode of Conversations from the C Suite. I'll tell you, we've got a great guest in store as we continue our conversations around creating our circle of influence, our relationships. So I'm going to do as I've asked you and share this out and make sure that we've got some people on here because this is a great conversation and we want others to join us as well. So hang tight and invite. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Conversations from the C Suite, the girlfriend's guide to being a CEO. I am Dr. Stephanie D. Barnes, and it is my pleasure to have you here in the C Suite with me because here in the C Suite, we help women and a few good men to be the CEOs of their lives. We want you to have a seat at the table because we know when women have a seat at the table, great things happen. Because not only do they have a seat, but they get a chance to create a seat for someone else. So, the C suite in any company, that's where the decisions are made. Well, guess what? You have a C suite in your life as well. It's where you make the decisions to create the life you desire and deserve. Because here we're focused on being CEOs, not just holding the title, but actually walking the walk, talking the talk. Because a chief executive officer, just like its middle name says, executes. We make things happen. So you may be a CEO on many different levels. You may be a CEO on the rise. You're just getting started with making your CEO moves. You may be a CEO actually on the move. You're new to this CEO thing, but you're ready to take it to the next level. And then you may be the CEO because here's the thing. I don't care how many years you've been a CEO and how great you're doing at it. Remember, you can always be better because if you're number one, remember, number two is very close behind and they want to be number one. So, conversations in the C suite is where we have real conversations about real things that matter to real women because we know life doesn't end when we leave the office. As a matter of fact, that's just where things get started. So, here in the C suite, we want to equip you to make the decisions to create the life you desire and deserve. We want you to feel something, learn something, but most of all, baby, you got to do something. That's right. You've got to make your CEO moves. A CEO move is creating your circle of influence, empowering and educating yourself so that you can elevate your life, and operationalizing what you learn so you can optimize your outcome. Because if all you do is feel and learn, girl, you're not going to be able to do anything. You've got to actually do something with it. So remember, whether you report to a CEO or you are the CEO of your own business, you are always the CEO of you. So let's get ready to talk about real strategies, because here we're not talking about fluff and stuff. We're talking about real strategies, real women, real issues, and how we can really do something to change, create, and elevate our lives. So, we are continuing our series on relationships. We have, over the past few episodes, been focusing on that critical aspect of CEO Move, creating your circles of influence. And the truth is, our relationships impact who we are. We've talked about business relationships. We've talked about the intersection of personal and professional relationships. We've talked about love. Well, guess what? Tonight, we're going to talk about, well, what happens when love doesn't quite go right? Can you get it back on track? Is our love like Humpty Dumpty? Is once it falls apart, can it ever be put back together again? Well, the answer is yes, it sure can. And we've got an awesome, awesome expert tonight who is going to talk to us and help us focus on how to get not only how to have a great relationship, but what happens when love doesn't quite go as planned and love doesn't look exactly the way you want it to. How do you get it back to where it needs to be? So I'm excited, y'all. In the lobby, we have none other than Tanya Barnett, and she is a powerhouse CEO. She's a TEDx speaker, certified life coach, healthy relationship advocate in business and home, talk show host, and the real wife coach. She is the award winning author of Being a Wife Just Got Real, Things I Wish I Knew Before I Said I Do. She is the movement behind the Real Wife Movement. And there she equips single and married women with tools for creating strong relationships, marriages, and families. She's been featured in the Essence magazine, on the Oprah Winfrey Network, and the Tom Joyner Morning Show, the Today Show, NAACP, Congressional Black Caucus, and a plethora of other media outlets. In 2018, Tanya and her husband Don were featured in Essence.com sharing tips on how to have healthy relationships. They were also featured on season 2 of the Oprah Winfrey Network's new hit show, Black Love Doc. Y'all, I cannot wait to bring this powerhouse to the lobby, so I will wait no more and bring to the C-suite none other than Tanya Barnett. Hey, girl.
Hey everybody. Hi, I'm so excited to be here and honored. So thank you, Dr. Stephanie, for having me.
Oh, thank you for being here. I've had the opportunity to get to know you a little bit over the past year, and I actually had a chance to participate in some of the promotional activities you had in leading up to Black Love, your appearance on Black Love. Got a chance to see you on there. And so glad to have you here in the C-suite.
I'm very honored. So thank you. Thank you for asking me. I really am honored.
Well, awesome. Well, we always begin with the who, the what, and the why. So, of course, I've shared a little bit about who you are, but we want to know, who is the real Tanya Barnett? You just share, with us who you are, what you do, and why you make CEO moves.
Wow. Well, I'm Tanya Barnett, like you said, Dr. Stephanie, you read my bio, but really I am just a woman who loves hard, who loves her family, loves God, loves my community, and I put action behind all of that. So I'm very clear on making sure I have a healthy relationship with my husband, with my children, as well as giving back to my community via my nonprofit, Forever Free Books. Also partnering with the local school system here in my county, where my nonprofit actually goes in and we do story time, and the children at those Title I schools, which are low income schools, they all leave with free books. And then I take Black men into barbershops where we're actually able to have conversations with boys, as well as they get to see Black men reading books, something that is a rarity, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And these boys also get free haircuts and they get to shop for free books. So I'm about loving the people and empowering the people. And that's pretty much what I do.
All right. Well, awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, I've been so excited about having you on the show. As I shared, we have been talking about just all different aspects of relationships.
Mm-hmm.
We've hit on, we've had, this show focuses on women. I'm unapologetically an advocate of women. I invite men to the conversation. And in fact, 2 episodes ago, we had our first male guest on the show, Mr. Milton Lawrence, who came on to share the male's perspective of relationships. Okay. So it was very great. We had an awesome conversation. I can't wait to have him back on again. But I've been very excited about your episode because, we've been looking at all these different aspects. And last episode, we focused on self-love and the importance of healthy self-love as the basis for great professional and personal relationships. And so today I want to focus a little bit on, all right, love just ain't going right. What can I do to get back on track? Because we know that, when we're suffering in our personal relationships, it shows up at work, it shows up in our interactions with everybody because our relationships are a healthy part of us, or important part of us. So why don't you just kind of start off by giving us a little bit of your story as to how did you become the real wife coach?
Wow. It's not pretty at all. So people think it's pretty. It's not. I wound up having an emotional affair about year 13 into our marriage. And by that time we had 3 children. And the emotional affair happened because, number one, what you just said, Dr. Stephanie, I was not taking care of myself. And then in me not taking care of myself, I wasn't taking care of my marriage. I was busy. I was doing so many things. Because I'm very community oriented. And so what happened was I was overtaxed in everything that I was doing. So I was doing NAACP, coaching, Girl Scouts, county commissioner. I was a treasurer. You name it. Church. I was out of the house about 6 days a week. And so my marriage suffered because of that. And so in the meantime, my husband was feeling not valued because of me doing everything for everybody except for him. And so someone just happened to come into my life and kind of validate all the stuff that I was doing. And I wasn't getting that from my husband. He was sulking because of all the stuff I was doing. But this person was like, oh my gosh, that's great. You're doing all these great things. And this continued on for a year to the point where I was looking forward to, running upstairs to my bedroom, going in my closet and getting on the phone with this person or, what have you, because I needed that fix. Honestly, I was addicted to the praise. I was addicted to the attention. And my husband found out via social media that this was going on. And so from there, once it all blew up and everything, we had to ask ourselves, did we want to stay married? If we do, what did that look like? And number 3, were we willing to put in the work for what we wanted? And so after we did the work, lots of therapy, lots of crying, lots of conversations, sleeping in the other room, sofa, all that crazy stuff. I realized that as women, we're told that we can be the superwoman. And what happens is when we try to be that superwoman, somebody's going to lose. And usually it's either our children, our spouses, or ourselves. And so I started the Real Wife Movement to teach single women, hey, if you have all this stuff going on and you're complaining about you can't find a man, it's probably because you're too busy. So you may want to dial back on some of that. But then also in marriages, if there's like a disconnect, maybe look at some of the things that you're doing. And I'm not blaming everything on the woman. Please, please, please. I don't want people to take that. But a lot of times as Black women, especially, we're told we can do everything, be everything to everybody. And our husbands and our children suffer. And so I started the Real Wife Movement to help us kind of take a step back, assess what we're doing in our marriages, in our homes, even if someone is single and they're a single mom or what have you, and see where can I cut some things off that are good things, but they may not be a good thing for me at this moment in my life.
Yeah. Yeah, because one of the things that, I've always thought about, as the C-suite women's network and all the things that I'm doing, have evolved over the years is, you know, being a CEO is all about being a strategist,
Mhm.
and whether we are on the job or in our marriages or in our relationships, nothing that we do happens by chance, and it doesn't happen unless we really commit to a strategy. And that kind of sound that can sound like really cold, like,
Mhm.
you're treating your marriage like a business. But a lot of times we put more effort into our business relationships than we do into our personal relationships, and it require the same amount of work. You got to woo the client. you know
Right.
you're you got to do client development. You got to do client satisfaction survey.
Right.
You really got to do all of these things. And one of the things, as I was listening to you, and I've heard you share your story before, it kind of starts with the breakdown in communication.
Mhm.
You may not communicate what you need. He doesn't communicate what he needs.
Right.
And then, it can lead to a whole lot of different places.
Right. Absolutely. And it's so funny because here recently my husband was laid off,
Mm-hmm.
and so and lost his job, and so trying to be a supportive wife and
Uh-huh.
being that go-getter, we were like missing each other in communication.
Yeah.
And so I told my husband, I said, look, I'm not comfortable right now, so we need to go see a therapist.
Yeah.
And thankfully my husband was open to that, where we were able to go see her.
Mm-hmm.
He could tell his part of the story, I could tell my part of the story, and she helped us fill in the gaps so that
Mm-hmm.
we now have this bridge where we're now able to communicate with one another. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of times couples don't do that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
we blame each other for the disconnect as opposed to saying, yo, something's not right.
Mm-hmm.
How can we work on this so that we're communicating and getting back to each other? And I'm telling you, I'm a strong, strong advocate of therapy. Sometimes
Yeah.
my husband will say that. He'd be like, babe, you seem to have an attitude all the time. We're not connecting, let's go see the therapist, And
Yeah.
I mean, we use her kind of like a mediator or something. I
Right.
don't know, but for us, it works at this point on us. I wish we had that 13, at year 13, we're at year 19 now.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we had to go through that journey so that now we can
Yeah.
help other couples.
And yeah, you hit on a really important point because I've been thinking about this, especially the therapy component, and how, oh my gosh, that is so important. And we don't really learn to incorporate therapy and having that neutral third party in our business. Because you kind of get all different schools of thought. You to keep people out your business, and you do. But a therapist is not somebody in your business. There's somebody who, like you say, helps to mediate. And I just know, looking back on my marriage, my marriage of 21 years ended in divorce.
Mhm.
We went through counseling twice, but we didn't go through counseling until something was wrong. Yeah,
Mm.
until it was, I mean, we could not fix it by ourselves, or couldn't even get beyond where we were by ourselves. And, you know, I really wish we would talk more about, just, about, or we would embrace more rather, just the concept of like premarital counseling. Just, I've talked to different couples. A friend of mine, he's been married 20, almost 30 years. And like, one of the great things I love about him and his wife is they have annual counseling where they just go and they just kind of lay it all out on the table. And it's like the annual strategic retreat.
Right. Something you do with your company. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, but that's something that we've got to commit to doing, so that, you know because, like, you talk about this superwoman concept, and we are, women especially, we want to do everything, and we can, but we can't do everything well, and we can't do everything all the time, and we
Right,
can't do everything all the time for this long period of, it's not sustainable. And we've got to be willing to take the cape off and
right.
get some help.
And I think too, social media has kind of set us up a little bit
Hmm.
because we see what we perceive as people doing it, or this boss chick, this boss babe, whatever
Uh-huh.
those
Yeah.
terminologies are that we use. but we don't know what their home lives are like.
Yeah.
And I would dare say a lot of the women that we see that are killing the game, when I took a step back and looked, a lot are single. I was surprised how many did not have children.
Yeah.
And had never been married. I was really surprised when I took stock into that. Whereas women who are married or have children, they're working full-time jobs and it's their side hustle or things of that nature. And I'm not saying that there aren't married women who are killing the game, but I think a lot of times with the superwoman thing, we can't do what a single woman with no children has.
Right.
When you have teenagers or things of that nature, one of the things that I try to do when we're talking about communication is even with my teenagers, we have one left at home, and asking him, are you okay with me missing this game or that game? And if he said, Mom, I really want you at this game, then I either don't go to a conference that weekend, or if I have a client, I'll reschedule their call and say, hey, my son really, and my clients have been very understanding because they know my background. They're like, Tanya, I totally respect that. And I think once you set up those boundaries, and I actually have a whole course that I'm teaching on boundaries, then once you set up your boundaries and you teach people to respect them, then when you say, hey, I can't do this at this moment, then they're like, okay, I understand. But I think what happens is because we're giving people permission to just take advantage of us. When we try to say no, then that's when we get the pushback.
Right. And you said or you talked about something that was really important in how we have to set expectations for ourselves and for others of us. Because I know, because one of the blessings, in that I've committed to is really being retrospective for the purpose of learning about me. Because when you go through a breakup, when you go through a divorce, you can spend a lot of time focusing on the breakup, the divorce, and you kind of get in this self-destructive cycle. And I've just been committed to being retrospective. But one of the things that I've learned, and it's been such a beautiful experience, is just, again, learning about me, but how I think things could have been, a lot different. Things could have been a lot joyful. I mean, the woulda, coulda, shouldas, but just looking at how important it is to be honest with myself about expectations and then expressing expectations.
Right.
Because I think we expect men to read our minds.
Right.
And, because my honey and I had this conversation, because I do have a relationship now, not married again, but not yet at least. But, I'm in a relationship, and I'm trying to, learn and not repeat and really be aware. And one of the things that I just had to admit, and I finally had to say it out loud, is, I'm real bad about saying when you ask me if something's wrong and I say nothing. And you know that when I say nothing, I really don't mean nothing. I just have not found the courage to say what's on my mind. We laughed about it, but that was a big step for me in just being able to, because I'm a great advocate for other people, but I will not, in a lot of cases, speak up for myself and say what's on my mind. You ought to know. Why don't you know what I want?
Right.
But men don't. People don't. People aren't mind readers.
Right. And it's so true. And that's where having that effective communication, whether it's down to intimacy, what you want to see in the bedroom, roles that you have in the home. Like for us, our roles have shifted a lot. I was a stay-at-home mom for a long time, and I homeschooled my children and did home daycare. And then when I shifted to having written my book, to traveling and doing all these great things, now my husband is the one who's doing the cooking and the grocery shopping and the laundry. But we communicated that. It was like when I wrote my book, I said, hey, honey, you understand that when I write this book, the potential for me to be traveling. And so we had that communication before my book was even published.
Right.
Before it was even published. And now that his book is written, we had the same type of conversation, but now we're able to, like this weekend, we're traveling to Pittsburgh together to speak at 2 different events this weekend. So, just again, having that type of communication, to me, I don't want to have another emotional affair. I carried a lot of shame, a lot of guilt. I was sneaking, and it just was not a good place for me. And I don't ever want to go back there again. And I don't want my husband to fall into that as well. So
Right.
for me, I just understand, I just got to put it all out there, whether it's, something that's hard for him to swallow or for him to grasp or vice versa. At least let's put it out there so that we can have a conversation around it and then decide, how do we move forward? Do we address it now, or do we wait a week until tensions,
Right.
dissipate or what have you? But at least it's out there.
Yeah. Yeah, because you touched on this a little bit at the beginning, and this is a constant theme that comes up, and that is, how powered women who want to do more than stay at home. When they want to have a career outside of the home, because being a stay at home mom is a job in and of itself. It's not,
Yes,
you're not sitting
ma'am.
around. Some of them do, but most stay at home moms, they're working inside the home.
Mhm.
But for women who want to do different things, they want to volunteer in the community, they want their own businesses, or they're working, in a big position that requires a lot of their time. They have interests other than their husband.
Mhm.
I know years ago, which is 20 years ago, I remember girlfriends and I sitting around talking, and the husband of one of my girlfriends made the comment that there can only be one mule in a relationship.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, that was I mean, it was just kind of one of those conversations where, it was a double entendre when he said it. But my first husband was, part of that conversation. That was something he would say throughout the relationship. There can only be one mule. Because he was a physician, or is a physician, and I'm an attorney, and then I've had my own business. And that constant tension between being at home and doing working and all of that. And just kind of like, because I think the meaning of the can only be one mule, was, if you look at it from a positive perspective, if you got two mules going in two different directions, it's going to snap,
Right.
The negative side is only one person is going to get to do what they want to do, and the other person has to back off, which I don't think is the right approach. And I think you got to meet somewhere along that spectrum. And sometimes it may be like an equilibrium. Sometimes only one person may get to do it, but that means the next time something else.
Right. And and that is so true, because when I was home with my children and homeschooling my children, I was going to school. But my husband was working 2 jobs.
Yeah.
So, at that time, it was him doing what he needed to do so that I can get my degree, homeschool my children. I was also doing home daycare, but I was also active in the community as well. So now it's like, I'm the one who, now that my husband's lost his job, I'm the one who's like, has the clients, and I'm doing the speaking and, all these great things. And he's kind of like doing in that support role. And it's like, we had a conversation about that, and he's okay, because he's like, I've worked 2 jobs for a long time to help you get ahead and do the things you want to do. Even though he was working 2 jobs and I was home, we both were pulling our weight in some kind of way, because homeschooling children wasn't easy either, And I wasn't just homeschooling one.
You say that, I cringe. I'm like, oh, you had 3 kids homeschooling.
But you know what? My daughter's in college now, and when I was homeschooling her, she was 3rd grade reading on a 1st grade level, and by the time I got done, she went to public high school, and she was reading. She was doing AP honors classes. So, for us, that was the investment. And so I just think it's important, just as being a woman CEO, finding the ability to prioritize daily. I don't say balance, because I just don't believe there's balance, but it is prioritizing what is important for us today, what is important for our family today. Does it mean, say for instance, if someone is working for a company, does that mean I take a mental health day so that I can chill out, go get my nails done, hair done, eat salad with a girlfriend, do whatever, go to the movies, and be okay with that?
Yeah.
Knowing that work will be there tomorrow. Or is it you want to spend that time for your boo? Y'all want to go to, Pancake House, get breakfast or whatever, go for a walk, lay in the bed, whatever. Giving yourself permission to take a break. And I think that's so key, because I had 2 girlfriends have strokes last year.
Oh my goodness.
And my brother just got married in October. And his wife that he just married, her first marriage, she had a stroke before 40.
Oh my goodness.
but she's a C-suite woman,
Yeah.
has it all, car, house,
Yeah.
purses, shoes, all this stuff, but you have a stroke.
Yeah.
So, was it worth all of that? And I want my health. I want to be able to
Yeah.
enjoy my family, but also be that CEO woman.
Yeah, because that's why last episode we really focused on self-care and what that meant, and self-love. Self-love included self-care and really thinking about self. And because a lot of times we focus so much on the career, our husbands, our spouses, our significant others. We're looking at everything, our children, and we don't realize that we're losing out.
Right.
We have it all, but we have nothing.
Right.
And it's so important that in a relationship, whatever stage you're in, whether you are in the first couple of years, whether you've been there 10 years, whether you've been married 20 years or more, the things that are healthy the first year, or regardless of where you are, there's certain things that you need to do and commit to doing, and not just kind of get caught up in the motions of things, because I think that's so easy to do.
Oh yeah.
It's so easy to get caught up in the motion.
Yeah. And I think that's what my husband shares in his book, is that he just got caught up in the emotions of being a husband. But it wasn't a husband in a healthy relationship. It was just, this is what I'm supposed to do. Go to work, sit in traffic, bring my check home, go coach football, watch sports, Yeah. And so that was our routine for years.
Yeah.
Again, active in the community, active in our church, but we just were not in a good place in our marriage.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until we, all this, the emotional affair, and then really working on self, that we were able to say, hey, we need to take a break. So there are some days where my husband used to call in and be like, I'm not coming to work today. And we would put the kids on the bus and we would play hooky, and it was great being able to do that. And not taking yourself so seriously. I think that's just so key as a C-suite woman, because the last thing you want is for you to have a debilitating illness, kind of like what you're talking about with self-care. And the company goes on without you.
Yeah, because it will. They're going to keep it moving. And a lot of times I think we are so doggone important. And we are. And we're unique and everything. But the truth is, if any of us drop dead tomorrow, life will go on. People are going to cry. They'll bury us, spread our ashes, whatever. But they're going to keep it moving. So whatever it is that we used to do for them, they'll figure it out. And I think, we can't be so self-important that we don't realize that, what, they're going to be all right without us. And that gives us permission to do things for ourselves.
Right.
And you talked about, the importance of really connecting. Because, I look back, over my marriage. And one of the things that we were so proud of is that every Friday night we went out on date night. And we thought, that was something that was really good, which was great. We carved that time out. It was very rare that we missed a date night. We played schedule things around making sure we had that commitment. But then, when I look back, I'm like, yeah, but a lot of times we're just kind of sitting there looking at each other. We weren't really connected. Right. A lot of times where, we were just kind of sitting there and looking crazy.
Right. Right. Wow. And that's what we're just talking about, getting into a routine. It's not, there's no connection. And so that's why for us, we had tried to do that, but having, kids at home, it was hard, especially with them being in high school and varsity games and all this other stuff. So for us, we couldn't do a Friday night date night. It just didn't work because somebody always was either cheering or playing or whatever. So we found playing hooky during a work day, because the kids are at school. There's nobody to run around. They're staying after school for football practice, cheer practice, or whatever. So for us, taking the time during a work day worked perfect. Plus, you're not out there with a bunch of crowds, so we could go to a restaurant and do lunch, or, do a happy hour type thing and be home by 4 or 5 o'clock. And the kids are still at school, at practice. So, it's finding what works for you, not just for, like you said, for the sake of just doing it, but enjoying it and making sure that it's something that you both want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you've mentioned that, kind of as a result of just all the things that were going on, kind of the breakdown in communication with you and your husband, just the busyness of your life and you needing that personal validation that you had, the emotional affair. How were you able to kind of, or to bounce back from that? And is your marriage the same? And I don't mean this as a get all up in your business question, but but because a lot of people wonder, like, when there is an affair of any kind, whether it is financial infidelity, emotional infidelity, physical infidelity, when you go through that, is it ever the same? And so, like, how were you able to make that, to get it back together and it sounds like, to really make your marriage even better than it was before?
I think number one, and I say this all the time, my husband was committed to being married. He grew up not seeing his parents married. Majority of his family members weren't married. For me, on the flip side, I didn't hear the word divorce until I was like a junior in high school, because all of my friends' parents were married. My parents' circle of friends, everybody was married.
Yeah.
So for my husband, he was very committed to the marriage. So that was his thing. And that's kind of what he shares on the television show, that he had to take some ownership for dropping the ball as far as taking care of my emotional needs as a woman.
Yeah.
He was just in the habit of just working and bringing that check home. And so for him, he was like, she's good. I'm bringing her my check. And it's like, no, I need more. I need you to ask me how I'm doing. And he was like, but you were so strong. I never saw you cry. I never saw you break down. Well, I was crying while you were asleep. You didn't see me. And so part of that really, Stephanie, is me not allowing my husband to see the whole me, allowing him to see me in my weakness. He always saw the strong Tanya. He didn't see me crying because I was stressed out or bills or, someone was sick or what have you. He just was like, my wife is good. I've never seen her cry.
Yeah.
So hiding even that, being vulnerable from him, I mean, it's a form of dishonesty. Whereas it felt like I had to be the strong, because my mother was that strong woman. It's so funny. My parents were here for Thanksgiving, and my mom was like, I'm so glad you're getting the lesson now. She was like, because here I am pushing 70, and now I'm feeling like I wish I took care of myself, did more stuff for me back in my 40s and 50s.
Yeah. Yes, I had that conversation with a friend recently. She's in her 60s and just kind of like, it has gotten to the point in her life where she's finally decided to put herself first. And not feel bad about that. And she was feeling bad about, well, I'm 67 years old. I'm it's too late for this. And I'm like, no, it's never too late. But it's better when you can, even better when you can do it early, which is why we want to have these types of conversations. Because I think a lot of times we are so strong that we don't equip ourselves with the vulnerabilities we need. Vulnerability is something I think is essential.
Right.
It's essential in any kind of relationship. And I think we hurt ourselves being so strong all the time.
Right.
And not being willing to admit, look, I need some help. This is what I need.
Right.
I need you to do this. I need you to do that. And not in a bossing people around, domineering people, but just being honest.
Right.
Enough to say, I am not fulfilled. I am not happy. This is what I need. Now, how you going to work with me? How are we going to work this out?
Right. Absolutely. And so, it's like, and that was the point. So it was us getting therapy. And what we did, this may sound crazy, but we tried couples counseling twice. And it didn't work for us. We would leave out arguing more, than where we were before we went in. So we decided, standing in the parking lot one night, we were like, yo, you need to get your own. I'll get my own. And then we'll come together months later. And so that's what we did. And so with that, my husband he has some issues from his childhood. I had some issues from my childhood. And I
Mm-hmm.
was realizing that all those issues from both our childhoods that we didn't talk about. So
Right.
some things came up during my therapy. I'm like, whoa, I forgot all about that. You know,
Yeah.
then my therapist was like, you need to share that with your husband and vice versa. So once we were able to talk about all those things, then we were able to do couples counseling.
Uh-huh.
And it made it work because now we were working on our individual selves. Now we can work on a marriage. Whereas when we tried to do couples counseling, it was he say, she say, he say, she
Right.
say. But
Right.
once you start getting that healing within your own self, then you're able to see your spouse through love and compassion and things of that nature. And I don't think we talk about that enough. I mean, we did
No.
therapy, but it was a little thin book. Who's going to take out the trash? How many children do you want? How much money you want to make?
Yeah.
Where you going to live? But
Yeah.
not like, how do you communicate to your spouse that you're sexually unfulfilled?
Yeah.
We don't talk about that.
Yeah. Because we'll sit there mad.
Mm-hmm.
What's wrong? Nothing.
Right.
Nothing.
Right.
You
And then
know,
looking at him like, you don't know, in your mind, you're like, you don't know.
no, he doesn't. He doesn't know. He doesn't know.
Right.
And and it's so important. You hit like on something that I think a lot of us don't fully appreciate, and that is just how beneficial therapy is. When I began conversations with the C-suite, conversations from the C-suite, we spent the first, I think, the first 6 episodes on mental wellness.
Wow.
Just different aspects of it. And it was because, mental wellness and being able to take care of our minds, is so important, but we will not talk about it. We don't want to talk about how we need to talk about what we need to talk about.
Right.
Because so many of us are bringing our childhood issues into our relationships. I know I was. It's something I still need therapy. I still need to work out some stuff from I still, because like with my parents divorced when I was 10. I didn't really get over my parents' divorce until I was, let's see, it was it was 2004. So they divorced in, I don't know, 1980 something, I think. But it was 2004. It was 20 something years later. I had been married 10 years by that point. Yeah, I had been married around 10 years. So I had been carrying for the first 10 years of my marriage a lot of issues and fears and insecurity and just all this, stuff from my parents' divorce. And it's out, and it's just dealing with that. And we bring all of that into our marriage and dump it in our husband's laps. I know I just, speak for myself, but we do, or we ignore it, or we don't even realize that that's what's causing the issues. Because the issues I had, just with my dad, with my mom, with my stepdad, I brought all that into my marriage. And my marriage was supposed to fix it.
Right. Right. I say, I thought my husband was going to be a glorified boyfriend and we were going to have sex all the time and love each other,
Yeah.
That's just not the reality. And they bring issues too. My husband was abandoned by his mother. His father raised him, but then his father passed away when he was 19. So he just felt like the only person who loved me in the world is gone.
Yeah.
And so he brought that rejection and abandonment into our marriage. So anything I did or said that felt any semblance, like if I said no to sex, it just like this whole rejection piece came up. I'm like, yo, I gotta breastfeed the baby and I'm tired and I've been up all. But he just took it into a whole nother dimension because of the rejection from his mother. So it wasn't until he got therapy that he saw that the way he viewed my actions was really through that lens of that child who was left waiting for the mother to pick them up, who never showed up.
Right. Because, it just all of the different, because none of us have perfect childhood. Right. Even when we grow up in 2-parent homes, I mean, we're all going to deal with just different things. And we just need to be honest about it and really be open to seeing how that manifests itself, in our present day relationships. Because it's things that happened like 30, 40 years ago that's still alive, you know. Yeah. Yeah, so it's just it's so key to just be honest.
Right.
Honesty, you know.
I
Honest
think
with yourself.
honesty is the best thing, regardless of whether it's intimacy, money.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure the women who are watching right now, I'm certain probably about 50% of them, if not more, were told, don't tell a man how much money you make, or don't let him know how much money you have. And I actually just heard a girl in the grocery store, she was talking, and her mother was like, yeah, when you get married, skim some of the money off, put it in a separate account so he don't know. And I'm like, that
Yeah.
is so, but
Yeah.
we're taught secrecy, lies, deception going into our marriage. So then we wonder when something happens, how did that happen? But it's like we didn't come with our full selves. We didn't come with the mask off.
Right, right. And it's so important to take that mask off, and make sure that we are, we're honest with ourselves, and honest, and and not wear that mask, because I think a lot of times we put on the strong woman mask.
Mm-hmm.
We put on the I don't need no man mask. I'm a strong,
I've
independent
said
woman.
that in the past.
I had that issue. And I, and I, I know one of the things I had, I grew up seeing um women who were not the that did not make the most money in the relationship. And I saw the what I want to call it, financial inequities, and
Okay.
how it impacted the women in my life. Because my granny was a stay-at-home mom. My mom was a teacher and made less than my dad, never and made less than my stepdad. My grandma, never made a whole lot of money. So I kind of saw this cycle in my mind of men dominating women through finances. So I was determined, when I get out, I'm gonna make my money. Now we had everything in a joint bank account, but I was kind of crazy about some things in terms of being fearful of losing my financial independence. And I see how a lot of that just boiled up in some of the things I did, the way I went about things. And it was because of childhood fears that I never really addressed in, my mind, the financial inequities I saw in the relationships I grew up around. And we all have some version of something, something we experienced, and we have to take that mask off, and not be just so committed to my way or the highway, and
Right.
realize that a relationship, it's engagement, and it's got to be dynamic. It can't be one person and doing everything, and you can't expect them to do everything. You do have to have your line in the sand moments, or line in the sand issues, so that you're not disrespected and unhappy and things like that. But you got to give a little to get a little.
Right. And I just thought about what you had said about the financial inequity and the pay inequity. But when we think about our society as a whole and culture, women are paid less than men anyway.
Yeah, right, to begin with. Right.
Think about it, when we think about, just thinking about historically and culturally, our mothers were paid less. Our grandmothers were paid less. They either clean somebody's house. I know my grandmothers cleaned people's house, watch white women's children. That's just what they did. My grandfather was a sharecropper, so they really didn't make a lot of money. And my mother was a secretary, and my dad worked for GE. So he actually came in when affirmative action was like ramping up, and he went up the ranks in that. But my mother stayed a secretary for years. She was happy doing it. So it's, even when we look at that part, that women are paid less than men, but I think it still garners a conversation about money. And I think that's one of the things Don and I didn't talk about either. One is why marriage was money. My mother, to this day, hope she don't watch this on Facebook Live, but my mother to this day still has her own secret bank account. And she'd be like, here's $100. Don't tell your dad I gave it to you, 40-something years old, But I just think it's important I want to be an open book, so that there's nothing, like I said, being caught in emotional fear, because my husband saw it on social media. I don't ever want to be in that situation ever again. I tell my husband everything.
Yeah.
You know, someone talks to me, approaches me or whatever, and vice versa. You know, he would come and be like, babe, so-and-so, she leaned over my desk and had her breast, cleavage on, and I had to tell her go somewhere. And, we just, after that, we were like, we cannot allow anything to come in between us again.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
so
but it can happen so easily,
mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people will think, well, there was no sex involved, so it's okay. But it's like you have there's somebody else in your relationship,
right?
Because you may be thinking, well, it's not physical, so we just talking, and that's kind of how it gets started, and then before you know it, you're having a full blown other
relationship with this person where my husband made me mad. I'd be like, I don't care because I'm gonna talk to so and so later tonight. My husband's mad because I'm on the phone. And so that's crazy.
Yeah,
it's just I just don't. It's
yeah.
When I think about it, I'm just like, wow, how did we get there? But I thank God that we're beyond that and that we've grown, and that our story is now helping. I mean, I have people stop me in Target. We've been in a restaurant, in the airport. My husband was in the airport going to my brother's wedding, and people were stopping him in the airport, like, "Oh my God, we saw you on Black Lives," and hugging him and saying, "Your story helped us." So, I know now that our story helps a lot of people, and so I'm thankful for the opportunity that we went through it and we stayed together through it, so that we can share the other side.
Right. Because you hit on something that I want to kind of close out with is just the importance of telling your story and talking to others, because nobody's experience is going to fit someone else's identically, but you can definitely learn from others. And I know the people that we have watching, we've got a newlywed, we've got people who are been married a few years, we've got people who are divorced, people who are just trying to figure out what they need to figure out. So I just want to kind of end with knowing what you know now and the clients you work with, the experiences you've gone through. Let's pick kind of like 3 stages. It's kind of things that people need to be thinking about. So let's just say that newlyweds, they've been married, 1 to 3 years. What are some things that they really need to be focusing on to keep from getting to that point?
I would definitely say do a checkup, and just say, hey, let's pick a date where we're out, we're having dinner, something like that, and just say, hey, how are you doing? Are you doing okay? Not that when you walk in the door and it's like, hey, babe, how was your day? No, like, really, how are you doing? Are you doing okay? Are your needs being met? Am I doing, and that's not saying that you have this 20 number checklist.
Yeah. You can't come in. You can't come in there with a machine gun. You got to come in there with a sniper. Pew, pew, pew. What's
right. But really, just like, are you okay? Do you need anything? How can I support you? And that's vice versa. I think men should do the same thing. And saying, do you need anything? How can I support you? Especially if you're an entrepreneur, I think it's really key to express to your spouse, hey, babe, it would make me so happy if you're an author, if, when I have shows or I'm vending or I'm speaking somewhere, if you could just put my books in my car, that would help me out a little bit the night before, or, make them feel a part of it. And I think that's what happens too, that I'm finding with the women I work with, is that their husbands feel like they're shut out of what they have going on. Like they're a second thought to everything. So bring him in on it. Hey, babe, do you want to go with me to Atlanta? Like my husband and I are going to Pittsburgh this weekend. Hey, babe, do you want to travel to me when I go speak? Or I have a conference that I'm going to. You already got the hotel room, so just get an extra ticket and, fly your husband with you. I think thinking outside the box for the 1 to 3, just think outside the box of ways you can make time for each other.
Okay. All right. So what about the couple that's they've been married 10 years, maybe got a couple of kids, and now, their careers are taking off. What are some things they need to be focusing on?
They definitely need to date. And date while the kids are at school is so easy because you don't have to worry about a babysitter. Think outside the box. I want couples to think outside the box. You could date in the morning while the kids are asleep on a Sunday, or Saturday. You don't have to go to church every Sunday. I know I'm probably gonna lose people on this, but stay on a Sunday morning. Let the kids sleep in. Y'all get in the tub together.
Yeah.
Have coffee laying in the tub together.
Yeah.
To me, that is sexy. It's romantic.
Yeah.
You don't got to worry about the kids banging on the door, whatever. Think outside the box. Make romance happen with what you have. It doesn't have to be, we're going to this 5-star restaurant, we're popping bottles and all this other stuff. It could be something as simple as you throw the baby in a stroller and you go for a walk. Bundle up. I don't care if it's 40 degrees outside. Put a hat, gloves on the baby, and keep it moving and have these conversations. Don and I do 4 miles. I would say about three nights a week. When we
I love y'all pictures.
and we talk. I mean, there's times where, we've had like a heated conversation. I'm like, babe, we look real crazy trying to argue, and kids are riding bikes. Hi, Mr. and Mrs. Barnett. So, but that's a good time for us. 4 miles is like an hour and 15 minutes where we're talking unrestricted. Again, it's outside the box. It does not have to be this. We got to get a babysitter. We got to go to dinner.
Yeah.
Real simple.
Yeah. And I just kind of put my little 2 cents in. If you're going on date night, make sure y'all really connected and y'all not just sitting there looking at each other crazy. Really connect. All right. So what about the couple? They've been married almost 20 years. Their kids are almost out the house. What are some things they need to be focusing on?
I would say spice up your sex life. I think that at that point, I think sex becomes routine just from the women I've talked to, where they said they're bored in the bedroom. It's just wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. And I would say spice up the bedroom. I think it's really important. I don't know what intimacy looks like for people in their 60s and 70s because I haven't been there. And of course, my parents don't talk about it. And my parents been married almost 50 years. But I definitely think at that point in your life, especially when kids are getting ready to leave, you want to be best friends with your spouse. And that's something that he and I talk about all the time. Once Yakeem leaves, he's a junior. Once he leaves, I want to be here with my best friend. I want to be able to have fun and still feel sexy and wanted and things of that nature. But most of the couples that we talk to around this, because we're year 19, it's boring. They're bored with each other.
Yeah.
So find things that y'all like, that you used to do. If it was the movies or whatever, just go. And I had to get out of there. This is a total transparency moment. My husband likes to go to the movies and stuff like that. I hate going to the movies. I'm like, I would catch it on Netflix while I'm folding clothes. It's got to be dual purpose for me.
Yeah.
I had to stop and say, my husband is asking me to go to the movies. Stop what you're doing. Go to the movies.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yeah. And and I think because it's not like that's not a suffering. That's not a something that's gonna make you. It's not it's not such a huge compromise the way you lose yourself. It's doing something that they enjoy, and it ain't gonna kill you.
Right.
It ain't gonna kill you to go do it. And I do think that's something that a lot of times we forget about.
Right.
If it's just something we don't like, and just, it's not going to hurt you. Go to the movies. It's going to make him happy. And when he's happy, you're going to be happy. And you will get something out of it,
Right.
You may just maybe just sit down for a while yourself anyway, right?
Absolutely. And vice versa. I know with him, he's like, what's something you want to do? And I love to brunch. I love brunch. And there's a time where he's already made a pot of coffee and he's, made some bacon or whatever. And he's like, all right, come on, let's go. Let's go to brunch, I'm like, well, the kids going to eat it. So it's not going to go to waste, type.
Yeah.
But, something, I think it's important. Sometimes you're going to have to do things you don't want to do. I know people don't want to hear that, but that's what marriage is. It really is about working together. I'm not into everything my husband is into. My husband loves sports bars. I don't ever have to go to a sports bar.
Oh my gosh, yeah. That is something I'm having to get used to because my honey likes to watch football. I hate football.
Right, mine too. But you know what? My thing is, I do a quota. I'll go one time, during this season or 2 times,
I watch one more football game. Jesus Christ. But but I just get there, I get my little book and I read while he watch football. Right. And every once in a while, we interact or whatever, but we interacting.
Right.
But I'm like, okay, I can't just sit because I don't understand it. But anyway, that's beside the point.
But
we do.
But for him, he feels like you're valuing something he's into, and vice versa.
Yeah, because it doesn't hurt me to watch football. It's just not my favorite thing to do. Because when I want to drag him to some art something or some musical something, I want him to be just as enthusiastic as me sitting there watching TV, asking 50 million questions about why is that a penalty? I don't understand. But anyway.
Right. But then you're both getting something that you need. And then at the end of the day, you're like, wow, he went to this museum with me. Or subconsciously, he's probably thinking, wow, she watched this game with me, even though I could tell she really didn't want to. So it really is a give and take. Relationships are all about, even with your children, it's a give and a take with your children.
Yes.
You know, I just say your spouse or that relationship that you're in, you chose to be in that.
Right.
You chose to be in it. If you don't want to be a partner and partners work together for the greater good, then don't be in a relationship.
You're right. That's true. That's true. Well, of course, you know that we were reaching the end of the hour, and I knew that our conversation would get going. And I know you had a very long day, but this has been so awesome, and I do hope to have you back on.
Thank you.
There's so many more things we could talk about, but you have certainly shared a lot of gems with us, and I think the most important thing that all of us can take away from this, whether you are newlywed and married 10 years, 20 years, whatever it is that, you know, this takes effort. You got to say what's on your mind. Nothing ain't going to cut it. Sometimes you got to do some things that they may not be your favorite things to do, but they're going to bring joy to others.
Right.
And down the line, you'll get that joy back some other kind of way. And you got to keep it sexy in the bedroom. Yeah. I think we could take that away. You got to keep it sexy.
You have to. And, you know, men don't need a lot. So I'm just saying.
Yeah. I know you've got a book out, you've got a vision board class coming up, and your husband has his book out. So I just want you to just close out with sharing about what you've got going on and how people can get in contact with you if they want to learn more about the Real Wife movement.
Thank you. So yes, I have a book out. It's called Being a Wife Just Got Real Things. I wish I knew I said before I do. So that is this. And you can get it on Amazon. You can go to realwifemovement.com. So it's on both. And then Don's book just came out, brand spanking new. It's a month old. It's called Manhood on the Line. A Real Man Owns His Shit. And it's actually, if you look here in the top, it's my husband. He struggled with coming home to me and the kids or staying out and partying with the fellas and women. So you get to read both sides of the story and how we both contributed to our emotional fare, but how we were able to come out of that. And now we're speaking all over the country, sharing our story and helping a lot of couples. So I do have a vision board party coming up. Oh, and my husband's book is on Amazon as well.
Okay, great. I was going to ask you that. Okay, so both of the books are on Amazon. So that's Tanya Barnett
and Tanya Barnett.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Donna. Yeah.
And the vision board party is here in the DC area. It is December 29th, so right before New Year's. This is my third year, so I'm really excited. The first 2 years we sold out. So this is my third year, and the link is bit.ly/2019 visions.
Okay.
We have a lot of fun. I usually have guest speakers. We have giveaways. Last year we gave away planners. We gave away candles.
Did I get that right?
Yes, that is correct. 2019 visions. Yes. So that is the link. If you want to join me here in the Washington, D.C. area, that's December 29th from 11 to 1. So we get you in and out so you can have the rest of your day and you can start your year off right with that vision board. And actually, I'm selling my book right now for $10. So it's half off. And that's bit.ly/indie winner. And that's because I won an Indie Award.
That's right.
Yes, self-published. I won my Indie Award within 8 months of my book being published. So it's super exciting. So if they go to bit.ly/indie winner, you can get that book for $10 and it'll be autographed.
All right. Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Tanya. I
Thank
so
you.
appreciate you. So glad you had an opportunity to hang out with me here in the
Yes, it
city.
was an honor.
We got to connect it in person one of these days. So whenever you're in Atlanta again,
Okay,
please,
I was
please
just
reach.
there last weekend.
Oh my goodness.
CNN last
That's
weekend.
right. Yeah, that's right. You know, because I saw y'all were touring CNN. I saw that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, the next time you're here, you got to hit me up. We got to get together. We got to get together with some real wine, girl.
Yes.
All right. Well, again, thank you so much. I so
Thank
appreciate you
you.
being here in the C-suite with me. And I send my love to you. And I'm just so grateful for what you're doing because you are helping us all to have better relationships and continue doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
All right. Well, awesome. I'll see you next time.
Have a good night.
All right. You too. Well, I just want to say thank you so much to everyone for joining me here tonight on the Conversations from the C-Suite, the Girlfriend's Guide to Being a CEO. And I hope that you were inspired. I hope you felt something, learned something, but most of all, you got to do something because Tanya dropped some really great nuggets. And remember, it's all about the CEO moves that you make. Because if all you do is you learn something, you feel something, but you don't do anything, you are being a receptionist and not a CEO. So make sure you make those CEO moves, create your circles of influence, educate and empower yourself to elevate your life, operationalize what you learn so that you can optimize your outcomes. Because whether you report to a CEO or you are the CEO of your own business, you are always the CEO of you, which means you get to make the decisions to create the life you desire and deserve. And so before we leave, I just want to remind you that tonight's episode was brought to you by Deciding on Joy, the self-help book that helps you to go from breakup to breakthrough. So you can go to decidingonjoy.com to get your autographed copy, and it is available on Amazon as well. So Deciding on Joy, my journey from breakup to breakthrough in 30 days is the self-help book that's going to help you to get back to you. So we just want to thank you so much for being with us here tonight on Conversations from the C-Suite. And until next time, I just want to remind you that your life is a product of your choices. Choose to be the CEO in you. Because remember, the power is not in the conversations, but it's in the moves that you make. Don't just talk about it, be about it. But don't wait. Wait broke the scale. It's all about you making the decisions to be the CEO of you. So until next time, I am Dr. Stephanie D. Barnes, your host, and it has been my pleasure to be with you here tonight in Conversations from the C-Suite, the Girlfriend's Guide to Being a CEO. See you next time.